Semitic orthographies like Arabic, Hebrew, English, the graph-phonemic systematicity was maximized when I used pixel count, which means the letter change that occupy more space.
There is no sound. Yeah, so you should have a restart.
Artificial orthographies, including Korean, and some other fictitious orthographies like Klingon. These artificial one returned the strongest systematicity when we used Hausdorff distance. So basically, it measures the similarity between two images most finely. So it detects the topographic systematicity, I would say. Lastly, in Chinese, the systematicity was maximized when we used the parametric complexity, which means the more complex characters tend to have more complex sounds. Okay, this is all from my PhD project, and the results were published in Cognition. And then I wanted to expand this project a little bit, asking two questions. First question, basically my analysis was based on data analysis only. So we always wanted to go for behavior basis. So do people prefer such systematicity? The systematicity they are familiar with, basically they're from their mother tongue. Second question, acquisition and learning side, does learning a new orthography affect the existing systematicity? So I conducted two experiments. Let's go with first experiment. I hypothesized that English speakers will prefer English type of systematicity, which is maximized with pixel count. Korean speakers will prefer Korean type of systematicity, which is maximized by Hausdorff systems. Chinese speakers will prefer Chinese type of systematicity, which is maximized using parametric complexity. So what I did, I created some fictitious writing system with 7 phonemes only, and these written symbols came from archaic symbols like Phoenician, Aramaic, Old Hungarian. I could really. I designed 3 different orthographies. For example, orthography 1 was designed to have English type systematicity, which is maximized only by pixel count. Second orthography, I designed to have Chinese type systematicity, which is maximized using parametric complexity only, not with others. And Korean type systematicity was maximized by Hausdorff distance only, not with others. Okay, and this is a writing system I created for experiment. So this is first writing system, and this is phonetic distance. So according to this phonetic distance, the chosen symbols have their own distance, letter-wise distance. So writing system 1, all of these pairs were designed to have English type of systematicity, just like as in the table. I collected 250 participants in total in the UK, South Korea, and China, and online survey was conducted. The survey was translated there, L1. Survey question is, example survey question goes like this. I let them choose one of the 3 letter pairs that correspond to the phoneme pair. If they choose the first blob, then the next question asks more in detail which sound. Okay, here's the results. So people do not prefer their own systematicity. So this graph shows the probability as an individual to choose one of the systematicity type, and it's just a chance level, no significant results. More significant result is here. The British participants and Chinese participants both preferred Korean type of systematicity all the time. Only weirdly, Korean participants less prefer their own systematicity. I'll tell you later why, my inference why. So Monte Carlo permutation confirm that English and Chinese participants, their choice is statistically significant. Provisional conclusion, people prefer Korean type systematicity regardless of their mother tongue. Chinese type systematicity was least preferred in all groups. Here it is. Expectation of Korean participants in the opposite direction. This is my inference because the reason why Korean people didn't choose Korean type systematicity, particularly because they are aware of the unique background of Korean writing system, which was artificially made, created in the 15th century, quite recent, to achieve such a systematicity, high systematicity between letter shapes and sound. So as Korean, we say, this is not rare, this is not natural. So when they are forced to choose letter shapes and sound, they try to avoid such apparent systematicity. That's my inference, but further research will be necessary. So the results were published in PLOS One last year. And the second experiment to do with language acquisition, I hypothesized acquiring new writing system will impact the existing grapho-phonemic systematicity. And English speakers who are learning Korean language will prefer Korean type systematicity. Acquiring Korean type systematicity as L2 will have stronger impact only because it's explicit systematicity. Okay, the same basic experiment design, but with different participants. I use this time English monolinguals, English speakers who are learning Korean, basically my students, and Korean speakers who speak English. It's just because it's very hard to find any monolingual Korean speakers at this age in Korea, in modern Korea. Experiment was like this. They have to choose one of them. If they choose the first one, next question asks which one is to which. Again, people do not prefer their own systematicity. So probability as an individual to choose any of this systematicity was just half-half, which means just the same chance level. No, it's just confirming data. English speakers prefer Korean type of systematicity. Just like this, same confirming data. Korean speakers less prefer their own systematicity, confirming data. I was very happy to find it. The key finding here is the Korean language learners show similar pattern with Korean natives. So these learners are basically British. These English participants, this is also English participants, but they are learning Korean. And they show exactly the same pattern with Korean natives. I think it's to do with, again, awareness of the background of orthography system itself. They are aware of that artificial writing system was intended in Hangul, the Korean writing system. So provisional conclusion, acquisition of new orthography did have an impact. And explicit Korean systematicity has a stronger impact than implicit English type systematicity. So the results were published in Hangul, the Korean domestic academic journal. So I've been really curious. It's mind-boggling, is that the right word? I was very curious why Korean type of systematicity was preferred repetitively. My inference is that it may be the consequences of modern education. We are very used to logical categorization, scientific inference. You know, our decision has to be based on some evidence. So I think these kind of logic process, thought process, let people prefer Korean type systematicity when they have chance to choose. So my plan is I'll do the same experiment with much younger participants before proper schooling. So before school age or very early school age. And I'd like to see if it's natural or acquired preference. Also, we have to investigate when this grapho-phonemic systematicity appeared in our history of orthography system, exploring archaic or ancient writing systems. But as you know, there's some problem on how to restore these letter shapes and their signs. And of course, we can delve into further of L2 acquisition. So two universal features of grapho-phonemic systematicity, as well as two divergent features of grapho-phonemic systematicity were found. I would say, first of all, universal feature of grapho-phonemic systematicity is that it exists in the human conventional writing system. Second universal feature, people, regardless of their mother tongue, tend to prefer Korean type systematicity. These are universal observation. However, there's some divergent factors. Different type of systematicity was observed in Semitic orthography, artificial orthography, like Korean or Chinese. And impact of Korean type systematicity was larger than other languages. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention.
We take a lot of questions. So any questions? Yeah, please.
Did not so much prefer their own way, and you, if I recall correctly, you were saying that it's because they're aware that their script is artificially constructed. Is it possible also that because they are used to some kind of systematicity, they expect it to be that kind of systematicity, you know, so they might expect that aspiration is a line or you know, these sorts of things, that it's not that they don't expect systematicity, but they expect it to look a certain way.
Well, because to achieve systematicity, for example, to achieve systematicity, look at this, these pair, obviously very systematic. So when this pair is given, probably better example. If Korean people aimed for such a systematicity, probably they will make connection between these pair with very similar phoneme pair, for example, g and k sound. But what we found was the other participants, British participants and Chinese participants did choose it. For example, these letter pairs with g and k, but not Korean. That was something made me think they kind of, some of them try to avoid such systematicity because it was there, too apparent. So if you were forced to make a connection between these pairs with, for example, g and k sound, definitely it's your preference. You will choose both that connection because it's too obvious. But Korean people tend to act another way. They rather didn't choose. They didn't choose such apparent systematicity. Unfortunately, we didn't do any interview, but this is a good research gap for future analysis. I think why they didn't choose apparent systematicity. That's why I think, because they know their own writing system is so systematic, regular, And they know it's extremely rare case in human orthography history. I mean, that is my inference.
You can take it here. Thank you.
One I had was how regular is the metrics within a writing system. So if you're just given the metrics for Chinese, for English, for example, can you tell what it is without looking at the writing segment about the household things, distance and that? Like, what is the variation in data? Is that where you phrase it?
Yes.
Could you go back to the slide where you described household things?
Yep. Yep.
So the orthographic distance, you're comparing two different graphics, right?
Yes. Yes.
So if you compare a grapheme in I don't know, English with all the graphemes in Chinese versus all the graphemes in English or Roman alphabet, can you, with a high degree of confidence, assign it to one or the other?
Oh, I only compared it within one orthographic system. Does that answer the question?
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't, because there's no point to
Right.
compare the different orthographic system. We're
Right.
just interested in grapho-phonemic systematicity of this established set of writing system.
Yeah.
My question is for the first experiment. You're comparing Semitic systematicity, Korean
Yes.
systematicity, and the
Yes.
Chinese type systematicity. And I was wondering whether the Chinese type is really what you first measured for Chinese, because Chinese is syllabic morphographs, and here you were measuring this for phonemes. So even for Chinese speakers, this would be a different type of systematicity than they were used to from Chinese.
Of course. Excellent question. Actually, so that's why I name it. I told you. It's supposed to be.
Sounds like it's echoing back.
Okay. That is a very good question, I should say. So the reason why I called it character syllabic systematicity is because I measured the characters and syllables, not phonemes. So in this experiment, when Chinese participants has to choose, unlike the other survey, for example, so the other survey for Korean and British participants, I asked grapheme and phoneme level. One is B sound, which one is B? However, for Chinese participants, for example, one is ban, as in syllable level. So one is ban, and but the other is kan, for example. So I designed it as a syllable, but that's why I called it character syllabic systematicity.
So it's maybe a naive question, but I have seen that measuring the household distance between, for example, two Hebrew letters.
Yes, yes.
Isn't this strongly dependent on the font you choose? Because there are so many ways of typing the same letters. And of course, readers will always find some indices and accommodate would the difference between fonts change your results in a significant way?
Yes and no. In my publication, if you read my publications, I actually provide the list of fonts for each orthography system. For example, Hebrew, some fonts returned extremely high systematicity. Like I remember David. some fonts called David returned very high. Yeah, modern font it returned quite high systematicity than others. But when we measure the top 5 fonts, the average Grapho-Phonemic systematicity figure about top 5 fonts, and then I could say, yeah, Korean type of system, Korean Grapho-Phonemic systematicity was higher. And there was, for Korean, I compared 40 different fonts as well as English. And then interesting thing about Hebrew is that Hebrew actually returned high Grapho-Phonemic systematicity in 2 measurements. Pixel count, just like other Semitic orthography system, but also Hausdorff. Because if you know Hebrew, there are some components that is very similar to Korean. So for example, sound and good sound is just distinguished by just additional line or something. So it wrote high systematicity in both with both techniques.
We can take one more question.
See the results of experiment 2.
2.
Really good. One, maybe the next.
The other, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know what test you use for statistical significance there. Because I get that, you know, blue and orange, yeah, they have the same kind of broad magnitude. But is that significant?
So I was sign test, something like, and it was significant, yes,
Okay.
yes. Between these group and, yeah, I remember it was a sign test.
Yeah, I get between middle and right. But,
Yeah. The difference.
oh yeah, sorry, I was concentrating on the 2 boxes. Yeah, they look at the labels. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, they're the same, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I forgot.
Yeah, I just think you just need to scale up the slide again.